So everything you're saying, I mean, it creates these opportunities. I mean,
sure.
I was speaking in the art industry, but you're right. It's in many other industries that definitely where culture is at the forefront. I mean, it's
It's
not
all
as
culture,
much, I
right?
assume. Well, I don't know so much about like I guess what I would consider more like static industrial industries, like you know concrete mixing or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this the hip hop way to concrete mix, but I'm sure it
But I
probably
mean,
is
but at the
some
same time,
perspective of
like
it.
but if you think about it though, too, in some ways probably so because just because of the platforms that we've created ourselves to express and change um, a lot of long-standing ideologies of culture. Like all this stuff may change a person that's in a position to higher sensibilities.
I agree. I mean the Super Bowl halftime show this past year was a classic example of that, which I was indifferent. I'm like, I don't know whether this is a great show or a bad show. Like,
Yeah,
I definitely know the Detroit rapper being in that show
yeah,
was very
yeah,
pivotal in it
yeah,
being the Super Bowl halftime show because you
yeah,
still need to anchor,
yeah,
some representation that's
yeah,
closer to where the masses are
yeah,
in America. But just even that, like in the mass appeal of what Eminem has been, ties right in the mix of so much of that. I I I believe more more of the I guess language
yeah.
and like I just you're right, the cultural competency and the way we relate will
That's
connect and things just become so much more understood.
right. You know what it's like, bro? Like I'm just so glad you said cultural competency. You ever like talk to somebody that was like knew they was standing on something that wasn't that right? And then you just kind of shut up and they just keep talking and they keep talking and they keep talking and they start hearing themselves and they realize like, damn, like I'm out of touch. Or like yeah, that I hear that.
Yeah,
That and I feel like it's that same sort of thing with a lot of these institutions. It's like,
yeah.
it's like, oh, wait a minute.
The life has things have changed, and I
Right,
guess life is always
right,
changing, and in certain ways remaining the same.
right.
But as I guess when we think about the leaders of any industry right now, they probably grew up listening to Dr. Dre and Public Enemy
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
Two Live Crew,
Yeah,
Salt and Pepper,
yeah,
MC Light,
yeah,
like and this
yeah,
is across the board.
yeah,
If you're connecting to America, and even foreigners coming to America, they're connecting
right.
to things through hip hop imagery, whereas it's so much different than what Motown was.
Yeah,
And we look and we tip our hat to what Motown created, especially being Detroiters, but
yeah,
it was specifically a branding
yeah,
where Barry Gordy was like, I want to create
yeah.
with support of many others.
Right.
I want to create images of
Yeah.
young black people
Right.
that can be the music of young America,
Yeah.
where it shows America that black people
Right.
have the, for lack of a better term, do I want to say have the same, we can have the same standards and dignity that white people have.
Right, right.
But even this is still based on the ideology and
Yeah.
ideal
Yeah,
of these white people having this standards and this ethic and this dignity, because we're turning on the
Yeah,
TV and looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
or hearing these stories and reading, we're reading Huckleberry Finn
Yeah.
and Lever the Beaver. Like, we're gonna create I mean, you're laughing, but that's essentially what the packaging
But think
of what
about this,
Motown
yeah.
was, while you still had like a a a wave of like that James Brown, that you know what I'm saying, that I mean that Jackie Wilson, even.
Right.
Like, you had like a mix of like these, like, I guess I don't even know what you want to call that black experience, but James
Yeah.
immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
Of like, that's a little different.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Whereas
yeah, yeah.
hip hop was a connection where it's like, nah, we going right in and we stripping.
Yeah, everything.
Where you're tapping right into like what the James Brown. You don't have the Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell option.
Yeah, for sure. And two, I wanted to go back a little bit and add to what you were saying, but like think about this too. Mm-hmm. You know, we're talking about like how the culture is shifted because there are all these people in positions of power that grew up on hip hop. Mm-hmm. And even if you think about what's happening in inner cities now, like think about the early 80s, right? Mm-hmm. And how like all the movies were about the American dream. Like think about the Steven Spielberg movies, or what's his name, like John Lucas or whatever. Like where were they all set? They were all set in the suburbs.
Yuppie.
E.T.
The yuppie, as they say. What's that? The young.
Yeah.
What? It was young upper middle class.
Right. Yeah.
American, like what was that? The Breakfast Club group.
Right.
What
exactly.
was that? John Cusack.
All that was about
Molly Ringwald.
Yes.
Who else was in that?
I know. Yeah.
The dude that looked like Charlie Sheen.
Emilio Estevez, right? But think about it, like, and that was pre, like the stronghold of hip hop. That was just before, right? Mm-hmm. And the American dream was living in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Right. Escaping the urban for the suburban and the wide space and the wide streets and the garages attached to your house and cul-de-sacs and all that. Yeah. And then hip hop happens. And now the next generation of people have no desire to like live in it. They're moving to the city now. And they're like, you know what I'm saying? It's the idea is to live in an urban area, and it's sexy and it's exciting and it's like, because I think in a lot of ways too, like we've shifted the narrative on what it means to be in the inner city, you know.
And I used to always think, because I'm like a lot of these same people grew up listening to, I'm sure their favorite music was like, I'm sure if we go to I don't know, like the biggest, I don't know, if we go to like a QAnon rally or something, or like a MAGA rally, like, you know what I'm saying? Or here we go.
Yeah, they just listen to Kid Rock.
Donald Trump. No, I'm saying, but when they were kids, they were probably listening to like Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. OJ's. And to me, that Philadelphia sound that the OJ's made, as much as I love the Detroit sound, I love it. But it was something going, you know, that the bass lines coming out of Philly was like, money. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and then like just the way they layer, and they obviously took a lot of that.
They were like a mixture of like Stax and Motown.
Yeah.
It's like they had the gritted Stax, but they had the polish of Motown. It was like the best of both worlds, you know, the Philly, you know, the Gamble and Huff stuff, you know.
Yeah, so like, but he was growing up, I'm sure when he was, you know, I don't know, like in college or whatever, he's bumping the OJs and in that same, you know, the dramatics with this wild looking album cover of a monster, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm sure, so it's like, it's a shift, I guess, that happens because culturally you still may listen to whatever this experience. You may like the classic singing Do the Right Thing. Who's your favorite basketball player? Who's your favorite musician? Prince, Michael Jordan. Well, how do you look at me like this? And it's like, well, they different. You know what I'm saying? For like, sure. I still think that it still can be like a difference, but I guess even with the cultural competency, it still doesn't change the systemic view of certain things. Absolutely. Because as much as it was white families looking to go to the suburbs, it was black families were looking to go to the suburbs.
But that's the thing, like we I mean, everybody was drinking from the same water. You know what I'm saying? Of propaganda and conditioning. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, you know, like we, you know, like black people was thinking the same thing. Like I'm about to get the hell out of here. You know, a lot of, you know, so we learn it from the same place, you know.
Yeah, and that's what makes art so unique because it's so subjective.
And absolutely.
And that's what I think makes the call to action for any artist, but particularly black artists, so different. Yeah. And your story is unique from, you know, through Cass's visual art program.
Yeah.
And you've won you won awards in high school connected to your art.
Yeah.
And like almost like connecting your interpretations
Yeah.
of these pieces that the NAACP or different organizations requested. And you were like kind of just doing it as like class project type stuff.
Yeah, so it was like, and that was crazy too, because like, yeah, like you said, you mentioned the NAACP thing. Like, so I'm a high school kid at the NAACP office like 2 years in a row from winning the con. You know what I'm saying? like brushing shoulders with Anthony and Coleman Young and all these people like from winning art contests. You know?
And that, and then you go to CCS.
Right.
So Center for Creative Studies is a art college here in the city of Detroit. It's definitely the premier art college internationally when it comes to design for the automotive industry. But along with that, it's just any discipline of art. Like when we think of shout out Gilda Snowden, you know, and so many others, Sabrina, you, Sheafy, you know, like
Sydney James, Cliff Perry,
Cliff
Harris, man,
Jay Rainey. I forgot to. I know Jay probably like throwing something like, "Boy, you better mention Jay probably is thrown a bottle of water at her laptop right now." So
Asia Hamilton, like it was a bunch of people, bro. They got the gallery on Northwest Gallery on
and even
West Side.
and even man, Baba Wayne.
Baba Wayne,
you know, OG in the mix of this. So, like all of these artists, but it's a different pressure because CCS, black and white, but especially for black artists, can like the subjectivity of it has drove people to like drop out, heavy drug use, suicide, that pressure of getting these opportunities that right now you're unlocking, and not necessarily, I don't want to say unwillingly, but your path is just different than some of your contemporaries in that space.
It's different because going back to Cass, right? And this is one of the most pivotal moments of my life to this day. I went to Texas my 10th grade year. So at Cass Tech, you have your art. You know, basically you have like whatever you choose, like. It's college prep, basically, so you have a major at Cass. So my 9th grade year, I chose art, and I had foundation art classes my 9th grade year. My 10th grade year, we moved to Texas. And I come back to Cass in the 11th grade, and I missed a whole year of art classes. And so I walk into the classroom, I had this teacher named Mr. Smith. And man, I love that dude so much. Like he was so important to me. I walk into his class, I look around, everybody got all these gadgets and sophisticated art contraptions that they're making stuff with, and I'm like intimidated. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so far behind. You did. I'm like, you gotta get me out of here. So I go to my counselor. And I say, hey man, you gotta take me out of art. He's like, why? I'm like, I'm just too far behind. Like I just missed too much. And he was like, where I'm gonna put you? And I'm like, I don't know, business or something. And he was like, you gotta go back. It's nah. And so I was stuck there, and I said to myself, wait a minute. I've always loved making art. Since I was a kid, like it just made me feel beautiful. Like I was always taping stuff together and like using hangers and cardboard. And like one time I remember, like this is like within the first season of the Palace being built, right? And remember those action figures called Starting Lineup? It was like the athletes and you know, like they ain't move no arms and nothing, but it was just like they just be like
it was like
Herschel Walker would be like this and like you know, Dennis like Rodman to be like this, you know.
It was like the framework of a bobblehead without the big bobblehead.
Right. So I had a few of those like piston ones. So I wanted to make a cardboard replica of the palace.
Mm-hmm.
And so my father drove me all the way out from 8 and 75 to the palace. And he parked in the parking lot, and we sat there while I drew basically like a blueprint of the entire building. And then I took that home, and then I actually made like a cardboard replica of, and then you go, and then it's inside, and I got the, remember the Fagos used to have the little metal caps, and you can like break off the little bottom ring. So I'll break off the little bottom ring, in which they were orange because the caps were orange back then. And I like
the rim.
Yep, that was the rim, and I had my little plexiglass that I taped it to, and I used the hanger as the back support, of the, and built the whole thing. Anyway, I was always doing it, and I said to myself, you know what? It doesn't matter if I'm the worst person in this department. I'ma love doing this. I don't care if I get C's on everything or B's. I'ma do the things that fulfill me. It don't matter where I end up, how people see it, how people look, if people laugh. I don't care. I'm just gonna have a ball creating it. And then I noticed when I started doing that, my Mr. Smith was just like, yeah, and he sat me down and was like, I'm gonna teach you how to paint. He didn't sit people down, everybody down, and be like, I'm gonna teach you how to paint. He was like, I'm gonna teach you how to paint. We sat down, the whole class going on, doing whatever. He's sitting down with me, teaching me how to paint. Next thing you know, like I'm winning contests, this contest, that contest. And it taught me, like, your greatest power comes from you just doing what's in your heart to do. And I've kept that since. So I don't have the art hustle. I'm not trying to show at a big museum or a big gallery. I don't give a shit. My thing has always been the joy of doing it freely and purely is worth whatever position me doing that puts me in. So the funny thing about it, and like it's the Detroit thing and the Detroit way is the move, to be open to moving autonomously. That's how we get down. And the funny thing about it is, even this situation came as a result of an artist who's a big artist, like that's his career, Nep Sidhu from Toronto, and he became familiar with my work because I said to myself, I'm not trying to show in no galleries or no museums. I'm not putting no effort in doing that. We doing these records. And if I do 500 records and I do the artwork for that record, that's 500 people in my gallery. You know what I'm saying? We do 1,000 records, that's 1,000 people in my gallery. So the record became my gallery. And it was because of the record that people saw my art, including him, and he's like, yeah, he needs to do his solo show. You dig what I'm saying? So, that's always been the thing to me, man. It's like, I would rather put my energy towards doing exactly what I want to do with limited resources than put my energy towards trying to get to a position of having infinite resources, but now creative limitations.
That's deep. So when we think about this, the showing, what's the title? What's the name? What's the background of that?
So the title of the show is Shelves with a question mark, and the intention of it was to be more of a prompt than just the title. And the prompt being, I would love for people to examine what it means to be human, what it means to be yourself, and what it means to like live within humanity. And so the title, it's shelves like a shelf you put on the wall with the H in parentheses and a question mark. So you take the H out of shelves, it's selves, right? And the idea of that,
So that's like a misspell because it's not SHEL. What is it? Because shelves would be VES.
right,
But it's like self.
right.
So
And
the
two,
H.
right,
I
right,
got you.
and yeah, and it's selves plural because this is about all of us essentially. You know,
And I guess selves is not the
selves.
self. That's like it's like Magic Johnson. It's
Yeah.
like Irvin
We need to look at
and
ourselves.
Magic. It's like Irvin was the family man. Magic,
Yeah,
he was Showtime. So the selves of Irvin and Magic.
yeah.
Irvin and Magic. That
So,
Larry
yeah.
Bird Magic documentary is hilarious.
Oh man, it is, and both of them are.
Yes.
But yeah, so you think about shelves and how shelves become identified by what's placed on them, right? So you got spices on the shelf is the spice shelf. You got hats on the shelf is the hat shelf. You got cups on the shelf is the cup shelf. If you take those items off the shelf, what is the shelf? What's the identity of the shelf?
Mm-hmm.
And so when
The
we
place
talk,
where the cups used to be. I'm just-
hey, yeah. And so if we think about trauma, pain, hurt, guilt, regret, doubt, all these things that we can struggle with in life and are hindered by or impaired by, we move through life hoping and wanting to alleviate ourselves of those things at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you say get beyond your trauma when the identity that you have was born out of it and the identity that you refuse to let go of? So if you want to get rid of the thing that actually gave birth to how you see yourself and what you are, but you're not willing to let go of how you see yourself and what you are, then how do you let go of the trauma, the hurt, the pain, the guilt, the regret?
It's a symbiotic relationship. Like,
right.
so as they say, like, you know, it comes with pain. Life's hard. You know, things. What is it?
I
There's
hate
no
all
struggle.
those.
There's no progress without struggle.
all that bullshit.
I think you definitely are always dismissive of it. I believe that
we should get into why, but yeah, go ahead.
I think you can define why, but I personally, I mean, you know, and then you can give your why. I believe that the struggle is what we've married ourselves to in our mind.
Absolutely.
So it's moving into the space and moving out of our comfort and getting into the vulnerability of the unknown.
Yeah.
Because it you know what I mean? So like we have these paths made. I know I do. Like with what I'm building with Detroit is different in this process. It's like I see so much. It was so beautiful to interview Mama Shu from Avalon Village, Mama Shamayeen, and everything they're doing in Avalon. And she was talking like, I used to sit sometimes and close my eyes and envision the tennis courts, the basketball court, so much of this, but then open my eyes and then people look at you and think you crazy because it's like,
for sure.
Hey, it's like these it's cars broken down, it's all types. Your vision is your vision, and then the journey of getting there and the process of it, and then even how we internalize what that process looks like. Because sometimes that process could be, we make it to be like, it'll be 20 years, and in that 20 years, I expect this to happen, and that to happen, and this to happen. The plan rarely happens the way it does in our head,
right?
And the more we have willingness to definitely still use what we've learned, but have a willingness to venture into that unknown, then the appreciation and everything else pulls from it.
Yeah.
That struggle, I think, comes with, like I say, we're married to these ideas of things happening a certain way, things needing to be a certain way, and also the responses of other, like our emotions that we've like locked away till like, okay, once I get this, then this happens. Like once I get my final new payday, then I'm gonna finally embrace being happy because I'm gonna be, I got a new check, and then I'm gonna get a new outfit, and I'm gonna go to the club, and I'm gonna get some food that I can't buy right now, and I'm gonna just feel a certain way because I'm gonna bite into. I don't know, whatever a person thinks, I'm gonna bite into the biggest lobster on earth, and I want this, whereas.
And then it happened, and then the same old feeling.
Doesn't, because you haven't unlocked those emotions when you could have bit into that bologna sandwich with the lobster filling if you're unlocking what that emotion is. But it's the unknown, because that lobster is like the idea of the unknown. Like, this has to be a better concept.
And I always looked at it like, we go through our whole lives with a key trying to unlock doors, hoping that what we want is behind the door, and the safe is in us the entire time. You know what I'm saying? The safe is in you.
If I had this, if I had that, my discipline.
I would feel this way, but that feeling is already inside of you. Dormant until you say it's okay to tap into
it. And so much of this design, and I'm a firm believer. I have a marketing firm. I've interest in marketing, which marketing is, in a lot of ways, it's conditioning. It's angling, especially here in America, because these are one of the vestiges of what Americanism. And I don't even necessarily think it's just capitalism in like the bartering of things, but it's built on like stacking up the scarcity. So to stack up scarcity, you got to always feel like you're at lack of something. Because, to literally feel like, okay, I need a new watch, I need a new house, I need a new car. When I get this new type of car, I need to drive certain types of places. You know what I'm saying? I got a Lamborghini. So, am I just going to have a Lamborghini and just go to the corner store? No, now I got to go to Lamborghini places. What are these places in my mind that I've made up that you drive with the Lamborghini? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, are Lamborghini places in Detroit? Nah. So that means I gotta ship my Lamborghini to New York, Chicago, Dubai. I gotta drive to Lamborghini places. Now that I got a Lamborghini, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so I've created all these ideas of what value are, how I perceive myself, what success is, these emotions that I'm thinking I'm gonna unlock, where I could just be taking the bus.
Absolutely.
And tapping into all of that.
Absolutely. I remember one time I was at the park with my father, and we sitting on the river, and he's like watching the boats from Grosse Pointe passes, and he's like, they do all this stuff in life to get to a certain place, to get on a boat, to do the same thing that we doing, and that's staring at the river. And so much of that is about two things: value and imagination. And so if you think about it, a 4-year-old never gets bored because they have their imagination, right? And they have their imagination, and they're able to access joy because they are never concerned with somebody appraising the value of their creativity. That's why you put a piece of paper in front of a 4-year-old, and they're like, you put a piece of paper in front of a 20-year-old, and they're like, I don't draw. I'm not an artist. I'm not creative, right? But the thing is, I really feel that we have access to joy to the degree in which we have access to our creativity. And we lose that. And so what happens when we lose the ability to produce the way we would love to feel through our creativity, we become reliant on other people and situations to make us feel that way now. And so we never become fulfilled within ourselves. And that's why we end up in so many relationships of codependency and unhealthy dynamics and unhealthy situations, because we need to do certain things to receive the way that we want to feel from an outside source, because we've lost the connection to our creativity that will give us access to all those feelings that always live and exist inside of us all the time. So at that point in which we become disconnected, like it's downhill from there. You know, like I always like play with people sometimes when people say I'm not creative, and I'll be like, but you say you believe in God. Like I do believe in God, and I'm like, do you feel like you have God in you? And they be like, yeah, and I'll be like, what do you call God? And they be like, the creator. So I'm like, if you say you ain't creative, then you say it ain't no God in you. You know what I'm saying? Then you looking for the sky for things to change, and it's like, it's in you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is it. Like going back to like institutions and art institutions in particular, they're placing a value on something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get excited about something based on the value that's given to something.
Yeah.
And versus like us really engaging with the value of the way something feels for us. Like me feeling the value of feeling beautiful, not because this happened or because I did that or because I achieved this or because I got here or because I did that. Because so much of what you were talking about of like, I need to go through all these steps to get to this certain place is about trying to create a story for your life that tells you that you have value. Mm-hmm. Because you've been conditioned to believe that you don't have value because this whole system rooted in capitalism and consumerism needs you to be insecure.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be an advocate for your wholeness or your peace. So you're perpetually, by all the images that you're given and receiving, given and every moment, like it's for you to feel a particular way, for you to need things, versus exploring the infinite beauty of feelings that you can feel within yourself. You know, that's always there. But if I've been made to believe that I am not worth the feeling of joy, I'm not worth the feeling of bliss, I'm not worth the feeling of achievement until I do this, until I get this, until I have this, then to me, like that's living perpetually in a state of disempowerment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And when you speak about living in disempowerment, that feeling, because as we engage, mm-hmm. can become an emotion to explore, a thought to explore.
For sure.
Like what was the trigger? What was the what got me here?
Now you're getting into the good stuff, yeah.
You know, because even in defining what that is,
yeah,
the journey of creativity, that creative process,
mm-hmm.
is so natural in life,
mm-hmm.
and even creating different pivots, different ways, different routes,
mm-hmm.
different opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
What you see as an opportunity, what you see as failure, what you see as success.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that journey and definitely that steps in what you say, like you're looking to define what your story is. That story is the beauty of it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's the laughing at yourself. Mm-hmm. Like most times when people say you know you're like me.
Yeah.
Like people say you always smiling. Half the time I'm laughing.
Yeah,
but like it's the laugh.
Yeah.
Looks like a smile, and I'm usually laughing at myself. Like damn, I did. I was trying that.
Yeah.
Like,
I love a good joke about me. Like.
Yeah.
Like this is like it brings me joy, bro. Like every once in a while, every blue moon, like Cliff would do an impression of me, and it's like it's the funniest thing, dog. Like, but that's just it. Like, we take stuff so serious, man. Like mm-hmm. a lot of times, and it's like really. This is such a beautiful experience, bro. Like, regardless of what's happening. And I don't mean that we stop doing the work that needs to be done to make sure things are like just and healthy for everybody. But like the whole man, it's like there's a majesty to all this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like even a bad day is a good day.